Well, welcome, Lorree. Thank you so much for being here. I'm go for it. I'll hand everything off to you. You can just tell me a little bit about what it is that you do. Maybe you want to start a little bit about your story and then move into what it is that you're doing now and what the value that you see in these kind of strategies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name's Lorree Appleby, and I am a radical living master coach, which is like a spiritual and life coach. I'm also an intuitive healer, a speaker and author, and I've created a personal success tool called the Soul Adventure Game, which I will talk a little bit more about after. So what I wanted to share was just a little bit about who I am, where I came from, so you can understand that. And then I'm going to give you some things to keep in mind, the foundational things to have a really great mindset to connect to who you really are so that you can achieve what it is that you want in your life. So I trained in radical forgiveness, which is a modality that's been around for over 20 years. And doing this training, becoming certified, and literally changed my life. I am really quite opposite of who I used to be for most of my life. And I've done a lot of healing from my past, and it's made a huge difference with myself personally, with my relationships, and with my purpose for being here. And I can only really call it what it is, which I would say is it was a spiritual awakening for me. And I was really able to connect to love and move away from fear, because I really did live in fear for most of my life, stayed safe and small. So I was really done with feeling like I didn't have control over my life anymore. And I just had to surrender to that higher power, to the light, to God, whatever it is you call it. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. It's all the same thing to me. And I started to go within, and that's how I was able to start changing my mindset. So what I like to say is I just had to get radical. And what I would like to share with people about what living a radical life means is that it's choosing to look at your life from a different perspective, from one that you've never maybe really looked at it from before. So being open to new ways of thinking and to new ways of being. And it's really about dropping our judgments and being ready and open for new possibilities. And so just not having limits on what those possibilities might be. So I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory so that you can relate to me. So in my past, I treated myself really badly. I had a lot of negative self-talk. And I would never speak to anyone else that way. But this is the way I spoke to myself most days. I would put myself down. I would judge myself. I would feel guilty for things I did do or I didn't do. I really was very, I would say almost, you could say, abusive in a sense, because I just talked really negatively to myself. And it really started in childhood, where this all came from. I didn't really feel enough for my father to love me. I got into a lot of trouble when I was a really young girl because I was very curious, and I had young parents who just couldn't handle my curiosity, because I would get into a lot of trouble just getting into things, and they just couldn't handle it. So there was a lot of yelling, and I was just left there going, what? And so doing all that, I really became a good girl, because that happened at a really young age, and I became a good girl. And that was my motive, was to make sure that my parents loved me and I made them happy. So I really conformed to that. And that carried through to my childhood, and I had dealt with a lot of body shaming issues. And then it carried through to teenagehood, and then eventually through my adult life. So, I was able to open up and be myself, and not be really shy to people that I felt close to, but to most other people, I was really, really shy, and I wouldn't say anything really that I thought anyone wouldn't accept, because I was so scared of being rejected or being judged or being yelled at or getting angry. And this was all just from my past. So I just had this really strong inner critic that was always criticizing me. And we all have one of those. We all have an inner critic. And it's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us in check, but it's really not. What it's doing is it's hurting us in the long run. And this negative self-talk can be one of the toughest habits that we can break, because we begin to believe it. And I really did believe all those things about myself, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't have any talents, that I wasn't able to make good decisions. So I'm thinking most of you can probably relate to that at some point in your life. If not, it's still happening for you. And this is when we want to look at what's going on inside in a deeper level, because really it's the stories that we're telling ourselves. And all of these programs and these stories are what we've picked up from our families, our society, and these are just repeating over and over, turning into patterns in our life. And then we end up bringing our past into our present life, and it just kind of accumulates and gets bigger and heavier, and it starts to cause you can't keep it inside any longer, so it starts to come out in negative ways. And for me, it was like I had a lot of guilt, I had a lot of resentment, and I started to have a lot of anger for the people that I loved in my life. So it really started to affect my personal life in a really negative way. So when we want to make these positive changes in our life, we're noticing that our life's not where we want it to be. We try, but then we end up sabotaging ourselves, and then we end up feeling worse. And I did this often. So I would try to make a new change, and because I wasn't aware of those subconscious beliefs that I was just sharing with you, I would end up failing. So I would do good for a little bit, and then I ended up failing, and then I would feel worse. And then it was just this vicious cycle I was going through, on and on and on. And this is because the subconscious mind has this really strong programming that most of our programming, I think it's about 90% of the subconscious programming that we have, is already in there by the time you're 7 or 8 years old. So if you had any kind of childhood trauma, or you had parents that weren't very nurturing and they were maybe very criticizing, or whatever happened to you, those things are going to stick, and you're going to end up, unless you've healed it, you're going to end up replaying that out in your regular life. So we really can't avoid doing that healing work if we want to change our mindset. This healing work is the forgiveness work and the taking back your life and stepping into your power. And it all starts with awareness. So we have to become aware of what's going on internally before we can make those changes. And then we can start to undo them, because really they're just stories that we have been telling ourselves and that we've heard other people have been telling us. And we become up with these beliefs, beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about the world, beliefs about how men are, how women are, how, just how everything works. We get all these beliefs, and they're given to us by, like I said, family, society, whatever we're exposed to in our environment. So because we get stuck in this vicious cycle, we feel that we have no control. And for myself, it really changed my life so dramatically that was how I was led to wanting to help others to do the same. So when I did that healing work and I saw how dramatically my life changed, I knew that I had to help other people too, because I realized, oh my God, it actually is possible. And that's how it all started for me, was that self-discovery in looking into who I really am on a deeper level. And it's really imperative to change the mindset and to create positive thinking. And then it becomes part of your life. So I want to share with you some tips that you can about. You may have already heard some of them. You know, some of them you might not heard of, but some of them are pretty obvious that it's all out there. But tips to living a more radical life and being in alignment with who you really are is, first off, we really want to reduce the stress in our life, because stress is the number one killer. It's what causes illness and disease. It's what you know, it's what creates our moods. So if we have a stressful day, we have a stressful job, or we're in a stressful situation, we're going to end up hurting other people in our life that we love, and then we end up feeling bad, and then we have that negative self-talk about ourselves. So like I said, this vicious cycle. So reducing the stress obviously are things like, you know, having a healthy lifestyle. Exercising is huge. It's so important to move your body. This was one of the last pieces that I started to address, because I had a lot of body issues and I had this love-hate relationship with it. So first I started with my mindset, then I went to the spiritual. So it's, you know, mind, body, spirit. I did the mind, I did the spirit, and the body was the last thing, and I'm still working on it. But that was the part that I think we all have that different area. That's our sticking point. So for me, it was the body. But I realized how important it is to move my body and move that stagnant energy through my body. So just walking, right? And just, or just, you know, it doesn't have to be this big, huge, go to the gym all the time and stuff. It can just be getting up and dancing and moving around. Like, it's so freeing, and you move that energy through. And when you can do that, you are mindful. You're not thinking. And for me, I was very stuck in my head, right? Because I had all these beliefs about myself, and I was always worrying about what's going to happen or what already happened. And I was never in my body and in the now. So that leads me to the next one, is the mindfulness. So you can move your body and practice mindfulness at the exact same time, because you're focusing on how it feels. You're listening to the music, you're singing, you're dancing, you're just moving. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, I do it privately because I still have some self-conscious things, and that's perfectly okay. But I can give myself such an amazing endorphin boost and feel so good just by putting on a few songs that I really like and moving. And it sounds so simple, but it is so powerful to do that piece every day, move your body in some way. Obviously, eating healthy. I know Ashley teaches a lot of, so I'm not going to talk about that, but what we put in our body is so huge. So definitely that's another key thing. And then the mindfulness, I'm going to go back to that. So mindfulness for me was the biggest thing, is to be aware of what I'm feeling, where I am, what I'm doing. And then I was really able to be in touch with what my body was telling me and what I needed to do to provide that support that I needed in that moment. So also I want to mention that in this day and age, like, technology is great and it's amazing, but it's also can really send you down that rabbit hole of constantly being on and constantly having that information. There's so much information coming to us, and it's too much. We have to learn how to turn our mind off and create some just nothingness. And this isn't an easy thing to do. It's really something you have to practice. So even if you can practice for 5 minutes in little moments during the day of just deep breathing and focusing on whatever it is, the breathing or the guided meditation, or taking a walk and focusing on the environment, the beautiful nature that you're around. Mindfulness can be whatever makes you feel joy and it makes you feel good. It doesn't have to be sitting and meditating, although that is very helpful. You can just, whatever it is you're doing, you are focusing on that thing. You're being in the now, in the moment. And it's so huge to do that, because when we do that, we stop thinking and our conscious mind stops thinking, and it starts to create some space. And when we can create some space in our brain, in our body, that allows it to be open so we can receive ideas, inspiration, insights, and so we can hear our intuition. So if your mind is always busy, busy thinking, you are not going to hear your intuition. And if you can't hear your intuition, it's really hard to be in alignment with who you are, what you want, how you can serve, what's the best decision to make for yourself, all of those things. When we're doing those things and we're doing it from a thinking mind, we're not in alignment. We really got to learn how to tune in to what that quiet, subtle voice is saying to us. And it's really difficult to do that unless you can practice that mindfulness and learn to quiet your mind. So intuition, that was something that I didn't think I had. I didn't know how to hear it. I doubted myself, just like all the other things I did in my life. But once I started tapping into my intuition, things changed so dramatically for me, because I stopped living my life how I thought others thought I should live it, and looking to my outside of myself for the answers. And I started to access my answers from within myself. And I truly believe we all have our answers within. We just need to learn how to access it. And that all goes back to how we were programmed. We were taught from a very young age, unless you had parents that nurtured you to think for yourself and make your own decisions, most of us were taught that your parents made the right decision, the teacher knew the best thing, the authority, anyone else but you. And so we were taught from a very young age to not trust ourselves. So that kind of just shuts us down right from there. And then we just go through life thinking everyone else, and even society is brought up to say, oh, this is the next best thing, and this, you got to do this, right? And really, that's not true. We know what's best for us. If we're in tune with our body, we're in tune with our listening, we're from a place of love, we're listening to our intuition, we're listening to our soul, we know what's best for us. They're like, diets and exercise and how you become mindful, all of those things, it works differently, the best for different people, because we're all different, we're all made up differently. So it's about trying different things and finding out and tuning in and seeing what resonates with you the best. And that's what you need to do, not what the next 7-step success formula is, or whatever that is. It comes from you. So yes, you want to access the information from externally, but you want to tune in to see, does that resonate with me? Is that right for me? And discern what is best for you. And then you can start to become in alignment, and you can start to change your habits and get closer to the goals that you want, because you are operating from what is best for yourself. And when I started doing that, it just changed everything. Like, even with my business, it made a huge difference, because I was always doing what the experts said, and I wasn't doing what felt best to me. So that's what I do when I support my clients. That's what I do for myself, my friends, everybody. It's always about what do you think? What is best? You need to answer that question for yourself. Another thing I wanted to talk about around creating, because I know we're talking about creating new habits, like that's the program you're in right now, is creating new goals, or going after your goals or resolutions for the new year. So usually that means we want to make a change in our life. So what I found that really helps for me and for my clients and others, and I've learned this because I've done a lot of research on it, is when we want to make a change in our life, it's so very important to don't take on this big, huge goal. You want to break it down into small, little bite-sized pieces that you can manage. Because most of us are very, very busy. We have families, we have jobs or careers, or we're an entrepreneur, whatever you are, you have going on in your life. And to try to change everything too much, too fast, you're setting yourself up for failure because your subconscious programming is not programmed for that new change. So you kind of want to bypass that subconscious programming by doing it in really small little bite-sized pieces that actually don't even seem like they're doing anything. But when you do it every day, and the consistency is the key. You're doing it every day and you're focusing on one little piece every day. You're building that momentum, and the change will last. The change will become permanent because you're not doing it in this big, huge way, really hard and really fast.
This way that procrastination can set in and stuff too, right?
Absolutely.
When you do the little steps, it's like momentum. Every single one creates a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, and your subconscious is less likely to jump in there and try to stop you from procrastinating, like you said, stop you and tell you, oh, it's a waste of time, because it's just this little small thing, right? So it doesn't even seem like it's a big thing. So it's like, oh yeah, we'll let that fly under the radar. But really, it is. So this is like this we'll call it a hack, I guess, because it really is. It's like a growth hack because you're just doing it in small pieces. So I think it's amazing because A, you can fit it into your busy day. B, it is creating a new habit, and you are going to create transformation over time for whatever it is you want. But it's also going to create a lot of awareness, and it's going to help you because you're doing this thing every day. You're going to have awareness because you're going to start noticing shifting if you're doing these other things that I was telling you. You're practicing mindfulness and you're practicing you're doing that, having a healthy lifestyle. So I do want to tell people, like, another huge part of making changes and having them last and create these resolutions that you want, it's so very important to not beat yourself up when you fail. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you are going to fail at some of it. You're not going to do it all perfectly because that's just not what human beings are. We're not perfect. We are imperfect. We are supposed to experience the positive and the negative, the light and the dark, the ups and the downs, the joy and the happiness and the pain and the sorrow. That is what we're here to do. So when we can embrace experiencing it and then love ourselves and nurture ourselves rather than telling ourselves, you did it again, you failed, look at you, you suck, all those things, you're not helping ourselves when we do that. And I had a huge inner critic telling me how wrong I was all the time. And I really have, over the last few years, and especially in the last year, and I still struggle with it. It's so strong. Some days I don't struggle with it very often like I used to, but some days, I'll just feel like, oh, you're not doing it. And then I have to remind myself, I have to be my own biggest cheerleader. I have to celebrate all those little small wins. So if I, had a good day, it is so important to commend myself, remind myself, love myself, tell myself how amazing I am. And I know it sounds kind of hokey and weird, but that is the key. You have to be your own best friend. You cannot look outside of yourself for validation, for love, for acceptance. It has to start with you. And once you start to do that, love yourself, accept yourself for all your flaws and all your amazingness at the same time, and you can be your own biggest cheerleader and, just pump yourself up, and always, instead of focusing on all the things you didn't do that day, how about just focus and celebrate what you did get done? Because usually we have these big to-do lists and we go, oh, I'm going to do all these things. And then we're just setting ourselves up for not doing it. So I can't stress how important it is to be your own best friend. Love yourself unconditionally for all your faults, all your weaknesses, and all your amazingness. Because I love this phrase that I've heard people say, you are a masterpiece, you are brilliance, and a work in progress at the same time, right? So
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, because when you think about it, right, we are, you may have heard this one, we are a spiritual being in a human experience. So we're in a human body, we're a soul in a human body experiencing what it's like to be human. And what it's like to be human is that we are supposed to do the ups and downs. It's not just about the good stuff that we want to feel. It's about also embracing and allowing ourselves to feel those more negative feelings, because when we can feel them, they move through our body and then they're out. Now, I will say, if you have healing work to do, then you might want to, work with someone on that, because you may get stuck in that negative, those lower feelings, and that's where the healing work comes in. But once you've done that healing work, then it's just that maintenance work, the maintenance of the things that I was just saying, and being your own best cheerleader, and just you keep going because you've learned the strategies and you've learned the healing, you've released all that past energy so that you can be your best self. So then it's just about keep rinsing and repeating, doing the same thing over and over again, because it's never going to end. We're in evolution, right? So we're always learning, we're always growing. It's always going to be that way until we die. And then we're probably going to come back and do it again. So that's what I just wanted to share. Those are the tips that I have really to the foundations, but I do have some other things that I wanted to, if you wanted to learn more, I do have other free offers that I have that will give you some foundational things that you can start with. And so what I've done is, I'm at the beginning, I mentioned that I created a game called the Soul Adventure Game. And I did this because it was really, my life was heavy and I didn't have a lot of fun, and I really wanted to bring more fun into my life, but I also wanted to, and others, I also wanted to be able to support and help people create these changes, connect with who they truly are, but in a fun way that was still transformational. And I put that out there to the universe, and it ended up coming back to me in the form of a game. And so I had said yes, and over the last year, I created this game that is changing lives. This is the feedback that I get from people who play it every day, that it's changing their life completely, and they are so much more connected to themselves than they ever were. So the game, what it does is, it's a simple practice. It's for you. It's a form of self-care. And if I didn't mention, I don't think I did, but self-care is huge. So all those things I mentioned earlier, they're all forms of self-care. And self-care is also boundaries and saying no and loving yourself and putting yourself first and all those things as well. But what this game does is it helps you to move from your head into your heart, so that you can access that truth that is buried inside, because it's from the past, right? So that's that truth that's buried inside, that's actually your brilliance, that's actually your truth of who you really, really are. So it helps to reduce stress, and it also helps you to find your answers within us. It helps you to create a positive self-talk. And it also helps you to take inspired action towards the things that you really want, towards your purpose, your mission in life. Because if we don't take action steps, we can do all the meditating and all the healing that we want. But if we don't take action towards what we want, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to be able to create and to grow. So it prompts you to take some action steps too, and it helps you to really ground yourself into who you really are and focus on what it is that you really want. So it's a simple 10-minute practice that I like to do it in the morning, but you can do it at any time of day. And it cuts out the noise and confusion of everything that's going on around you, and it empowers you to create more peace and love and really come from a place of love. So the Soul Adventure Game is something I have that people can purchase. And if you want more information, I'll share my links and everything with Ashley that she can share with you. I also offer personal one-on-one coaching. I do intuitive readings. I do these things online and in person. I'm in East Scarborough. And I also have a Soul Adventure community that I'm building. So these are just people that are all on on this spiritual life, personal development journey, and we're all supporting each other and loving each other in our imperfectness. So I'm going to share quickly a couple of links that I have. The first one is for my free email video coaching series, and it's called Radical Living Freedom to Be the Real Me. And what you do is, all you do is you sign up at the link and you will receive 12 video emails from me, and they're very short. They're 2 minutes or less, so they're very easy to digest. It's not a long time. So they're all foundational things that I have used, I have learned, and then I teach my clients that in order to live a more radical life. So I'll share the link and you can get those videos. They come every other day. So I did that on purpose to give you a day in between to absorb them and think about them and try to implement them into your life. And then at the last video, the last email is a link to all of them so that you can go and revisit it. So this is free training for you to support you in your journey and contribute to your growth. And I will put that link in the chat. And then the one other offer that I wanted to share with you is a webinar that I did, and it's called How to Access Your Intuition with Fun and Games. So I give a lot of really easy, fun tips to help you to connect more to your intuition. And then I also demonstrate the soul adventure game in that webinar. So if that's something you're interested in, that's also a free offer that I have. And I will put both of these links into the chat window. And then lastly is the Facebook group of the Soul Adventure community. That's something, if you're interested in learning more about the game, you want to be part of a positive community, you're welcome to join us there as well. So that is my presentation to you today. If you have any questions, Ashley, or anything you wanted to go further into, like, please ask away.
Yeah. So we'll finish this up because it's been about the half an hour. The main question to finish it off, I guess, would be, if you're going to spell out the answers for us, what would that look like?
Spell out the answers?
Yeah, just one. So the answer to, like, everybody's here right now, they're working on their New Year's resolutions. Some people are getting stuck. You know, many people in their lives already have maybe even quit or not even set them at all. So they're, besides this community and some other support people, you know, they're feeling, you know, maybe that they're more alone than usual, and don't want them to lose any kind of confidence here right now. It's all about, like, let's do this. You got it. It's all happening right now. What can you add to this to bring some more momentum?
Well, I would really just reiterate what I've said, is that, you know, you have to take it day by day, and you really have to connect and tune into you, because nobody is going to know what you need more than you. But if you're not accessing what you need, then there's a block. So practice loving yourself, listen to your intuition, follow your heart, and always come from a place of love from yourself and for others. And if you notice that you're coming from fear, there's a question to ask, like, where is this coming from? What's going on? What do I need to do to go deeper? And you know, we're never alone, so it's really important to ask for help, to ask for support. It could be a trusted friend. Just make sure you get a friend that's going to you know, give you positive feedback, not keep you in that cycle. And get a coach, like work with someone one-on-one, like Ashley or myself, or there's lots of amazing people. But really, I truly believe we have our answers within us. Like, we are our own guru, so to speak. And that is that's really my mission out there, is to support people and to help people to learn to access their own answers, because I know this for myself. So really, it's about connecting with who you really are and finding out what works best for you and what is best for you, because you maybe even that the goal you're going for might not even be what you really need at that time. It's about tuning in.
Yeah, and that's maybe why why the resistance might be there, or anything
Exactly.
like that
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
Asking questions are such an important thing, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that was such a big part of your journey too, and that you were able to share that with us. So,
Yeah, asking questions is huge, and then and open-ended questions, and then just being open to what the answer will be, but
yeah,
also
not
paying attention
forcing it.
to what's coming to you, because your answers are going to come to you in subtle ways, through what someone else tells you, or from what you read, or maybe like, oh my, like you'll get that little spidey sense, I like to call it, that little ding ding ding. Pay attention to this, right? That's your intuition trying to say to you, check this out, right? This is some information to help you in the next step. So it's about following those breadcrumbs, right? To
Yeah,
where you're in your journey, right? Because it is a journey. So embracing it as that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here,
Oh,
Lorree,
you're
and
welcome. Thank
yeah,
you for
I
having
look
me.
forward to yeah, I look forward to future, and I'll get all this stuff out there so people can find you, your game, and everything else that you've got going on.
Awesome. Thank you. And I love what you're doing. I think that's amazing with all the different seasons, and I was reading up on it, and I think it's amazing. So all you people in this course, congratulations for finding Ashley and her incredible gifts as well.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye.